Welcome to Rock Your Talk Expert Interview Series with Leisa Reid. I am Leisa Reid, founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now and proud trainer at Productive Learning. At Get Speaking Gigs Now, we help speakers get booked, stay booked, and attract their clients through speaking. And at Productive Learning, man, we do a lot of really amazing stuff. We help people live extraordinary lives through the process of self-mastery and emotional resiliency and leadership training. So what I have here today, who I have here today is Mark Klein. He is an attorney and he's going to give us some great tips on estate planning. Welcome to the show, Mark. We're excited that you're here. Hello.
Great to be with you.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about you. I know we know you're an attorney, but what tell us a little bit about the Mark Klein.
Well, glad you asked that, because when people say, oh, so-and-so's an attorney, it's always like there's like a pie of legal services, and it's like, which slice do I do? And I have to let people know, no, I don't do immigration, or I'm not doing that, but what I am doing is estate planning, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today.
Yes, yes. And I love your bow tie. You're famous for wearing your bow ties.
Thank you. Yes, I try to wear these.
They're great. No, I was so creative.
Breaks up the monotony of wearing a tie every day.
I know, right? Well, and then it doesn't get stuck in your food, like I would imagine if you had to wear a tie, you probably get, there's
only a matter of time for you to spill on it. You're correct.
I've never worn a tie, but I can imagine that would be tricky. All right. So I know you have some tips you want to share with us. Tell me a little bit about your first tip for estate planning.
Okay, these tips are based upon my 30 years experience, some of the things I see that people really need to know about in estate planning. So I'll address those. So the first one is called the pitfalls of holding title as joint tenancy rather than in a living trust, which I'm a big advocate of. So I hear stories such as the following: an elderly grandparent that says, my husband's not around, I just want to put my daughter on the title to my house as a joint tenant. So if I pass, it will automatically at my death be hers. And that sounds so easy and simple, and certainly some people do that. I don't like that because of the following. That means that the daughter, who's now on the title with the mom, what happens if that daughter ever, maybe she owns her own business and gets sued. Maybe she runs over someone in her car and it's beyond the insurance limits. What if that daughter got a divorce or something like that? All of these things would make her share in the mom's house subject to third parties. Ex-husbands wanting a share of it, creditors putting a lien against it, her creditors.
So you're basically putting your home at risk. You could possibly be putting your home at risk of things that aren't planned, but things happen sometimes that are out of our control.
Correct. And it's much easier to just have a living trust and say, at my death, my property will be given to my daughter, to use that example.
Yeah. Okay.
It's so much easier. It accomplishes the same thing, but there's no lifetime risk. That's all taken out of the equation. And then one other little thing on that tip is what's called a step up in basis, kind of a complicated tax situation, but I'll try to explain it real simply. If somebody paid like $100,000 for a home and then it appreciated to $500,000, there's $400,000 of capital gains there that ultimately needs to be paid. But when you have your property in a trust, you get what's called a step up in basis, which means that if your daughter were to inherit a property and it is worth $500,000, even though the parents paid $100,000, they get that step up to $500,000 as of the date of the death of the first spouse to die, which would wipe out all of the built-in capital gains tax.
Wow.
If you only had it in joint tenancy, you get what's called a 50% step up in basis, not a full step up in basis. So really in summary, tax benefits are great.
So yeah, it really pays on the long run to protect yourself ahead of time, so that you can save thousands. I mean, honestly, some people are probably paying thousands, hundreds of thousands,
could be, yes,
millions if they're not taking care of this.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's important.
So that's tip number one. Going on to tip number two, this would be getting a power of attorney for adult children. So many parents know when their children are younger, that they have the authority as the parents to make all the healthcare decisions and do everything for their kids. But what about when your child is 18, an adult, and goes away to college? What happens if something should come up then? Without a power of attorney, the parent would not be able to make all those decisions for their child. These things come up. What about a child living in Europe, doing a semester abroad? Maybe they're away at college and things come up such as, I need to renew my DMV registration in California, but I'm living in Africa or doing church missionary work or working for some organization overseas. These things come up. What about if someone needed to have someone put a deposit down with a landlord for them to go to school and pay for their housing? If they have not given their parent the ability to do that, that cannot be done. And so it's something that parents often overlook, realizing, oh yeah, my child's 18, they're now an adult. I don't automatically have all of those built-in rights to do these things for my kids.
Wow, I
Now I
never
need
thought
to do
about
it
that.
with a legal agreement in place that they designate me as the power of attorney holder. And like I say, these things can come in a variety of fashions. Could be, what if his son or daughter was in a car accident in a hospital over in Colorado or something like that? Who would make decisions? Which doctors, which medical support and surgeries and things, who would make those decisions for them? And it could really create a mess if you don't have one of these where they have designated the person as the power of attorney holder to make those decisions for them.
So question mark. So do you recommend that, I mean, I get the, like, I definitely get the college, your kid just turned 18 and they're still kind of a kid, even though they're adult,
Yes.
to like 22, 23, whatever. But then are you actually, it kind of also sounds like maybe every adult should have a power of attorney. Is that
Correct.
what you
Yes.
typically would
Absolutely.
recommend?
Good point.
Because if something happened, like, I'm like, I don't have a power of attorney.
Yeah.
I don't think I do. No.
And
So
yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for clarifying that. Generally, most adults kind of inherently know they should give a power of attorney. If they're married, they give it to their spouse. And when you do a living trust, attorneys always prepare those.
okay.
So that's a little bit easier top of mind awareness. People know to do that, but they just overlook the fact of their adult children. That's why I tried to emphasize that. But by no means is that the end of it. Adults, just the same as adult children, need a power of attorney and need to designate someone.
So, like, technically, if someone was coming to you, which I love that you shared this. So someone's like, Mark, I need, my spouse and I need this living trust. This is the sign we've been waiting for. We know we've been needing to do it, but we also have, 3 kids in college. Can we do the power of attorney while we're doing this living trust thing? Can you work that into or do it all at the same time? Something like that. They could come to you for that.
The normal way that estate planning attorneys, quote their prices is for a package deal,
Okay.
which includes all those things you just mentioned.
So yeah, so it's kind of like
all of the
just
stuff
get it all done in one shot, right?
Absolutely. So
very good.
And then just moving on real quickly here to the third tip I had for the audience is the importance, if you do have a living trust, you've got to keep it funded. Now, funded is a term of art, which means change the title of your assets to be owned by your trust. So you could have the most phenomenal living trust ever invented on the face of the earth.
But if nothing's in it, like,
if you put nothing in it because you've left titles as joint tenancy or in the wife's name or the husband's name and so forth, and nothing has been placed into the trust, then when you die, those assets are rogue assets that are not caught up with in the protection of what the trust was supposed to do with those assets. And if it reaches a level of over, I believe, 160,000 in California, that will trigger a probate. The very thing people thought they were avoiding by having a living trust. If you leave enough assets out of your trust, you will need to go to probate on those assets. So that could be devastating a lot of people that were not counting on that.
Right. And probate, just for, I mean, I've hung around you a while, so I have an idea, but just a layman's terms, can you explain that to the audience?
Yes.
Why you don't want to be in that?
You don't want, yes. If you die with no will or no trust, or if you die with just a will, it automatically goes to probate. If you're
meaning like all your assets, your home, your life insurance. I don't know what all goes.
Not life insurance, because that would be automatically payable to someone outside basically whoever you designated with the
Like if you
insurance
have your
company.
business, you have
Business, cars,
cars.
CDs, money, mortgage, all those kind of things. And so you want to, again, make sure you title those in the name of your trust. Some people have the great trust, and over 3, 4, 5 years time, they find out, oh, I don't even own that house anymore. It's like,
Right.
well, I've got these old Washington Mutual bank accounts. That's not even an institution anymore. It's gone. And so people say, this is stale. I need to update my trust, make sure everything is funded in the trust. And if need be, I will send letters to the financial institutions to tell them we need to change on the bank's internal records the title ownership of this account, CD, checking, saving, whatever, to be that of my trust.
So let me go back to just for the probate thing. So like, I know you said it's a bad thing. You don't want to be there, like, but on all your stuff can go into probate, but what's the actual bad part of probate? Like, I know it's so simple for you because you
Okay,
deal with this, but like, we're talking like layman's terms here. Like, what does that
sure.
mean if
Okay,
you're somebody passes away and you think, oh, I'm going to get their house and or whatever. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you're in probate. Now you're what?
so if you were to do research or Google this, you're going to see pretty much 3 themes that keep coming up on the negativity of probate. One of them would be the cost involved. Probate can, I think AARP says figure about 5% of all of your assets would be eaten up in probate costs is a good rule of thumb. So if you have like $1 million of assets, that's 50 grand eaten up in probate costs.
And that
Which
doesn't
means,
mean your assets are liquid either. It doesn't mean you actually have the money, but you still owe the
correct.
money, right? Like it just could mean your house is worth whatever, but you're like, well, I wasn't
Yeah,
going to sell the house, or
you will
maybe the
need to
market's
pay the,
not good or whatever.
yeah, exactly. And so that's a problem. That just means all of that money has been siphoned off from being given to your children or your beneficiaries. Now it's been taken up by the court and by all these statutory probate fees. So that's one of the things people don't like. The other one is the time factor. To wrap up a probate, people have heard stories at a minimum of 1 year all the way up to 2 years, which means all of your inheritance that your beneficiaries and your children were to receive has all been delayed, put on hold while it goes through this court proceeding. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be highly contested like a trial would be, but it is at its core a court proceeding that has the attendant delays and judges and all that stuff. And then the third thing that people don't like is the lack of privacy. A probate is an open process. You could go down, if your neighbor passed away and they were going through probate, you could go down to but for COVID, go down to the court and sit in and listen to every single thing they own, all of their
Wow.
debts. Everything is publicly aired and made, very public, what they would hope to be private. With the trust, everything stays private.
And that with that public thing, I think that's a risk people don't necessarily realize. Cause I mean, I don't have the time or the interest to go poke into other people's business, but I'm sure there's some people who have a little bit more of a criminal mind
Yeah.
would be like, well, this is open to the public and I can go see who has what. And then I can go, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
want to give anyone any ideas, but they could probably do some things that are not going to be
I'm sure they've been done
beneficial
before.
to the person. Yeah. So you're
Right.
at risk of some of that. Okay.
Absolutely. So those are some of the negative things about probate and why I'm a big proponent of a living trust and not just having the trust. It's not a one and done thing, but as I've talked about, keeping it funded and periodically updated to make sure it reflects your assets you currently have being owned in the trust.
Do you like recommend your clients maybe put like a reminder on their, like, I'm just trying to think of like what I would do, like probably put a reminder once a year on my calendar of like, check to make sure, like just do like a mental check. Did we change any bank accounts? Did we change any ownership of homes, or did we get a new vehicle? Whatever it is, like kind of do a quick mental checklist of like, does anything need to be updated? Do you recommend that?
It's a great idea to do. If they fall short, I take it upon myself to
Okay.
send every one of my clients a letter, usually mid-January of
Oh,
every year,
perfect.
saying it's time to, do our annual update. Here's some of the questions or some of the things that most commonly change in most people's estate plans. Let me know if you want to do a free consultation. We'll talk about how these might have changed in your particular situation.
Okay. So you kind of take care of that for them, which is
I
nice.
do
And you
it,
don't have
yeah.
to be worried about all that.
They don't need to
And
worry.
how do people get a hold of you? I'm sure there's people now who are realizing, oh yeah, I've been needing to do this and I got to get this taken care of, but I didn't know who to call. How do people find you? What's your website?
The easiest way is the website securitylegalservices.com. If they go there, they can find ways to email me, phone numbers, any way that they need to get with me. They can find interesting articles, blogs, all kind of stuff on that website.
And I love that you offer that consultation for people, because sometimes, like, especially when you're venturing into legal stuff, you're like, I don't know if I need help. Like, I just have this, do I need an attorney? What, and you just have questions. You just want to make sure that the person you're talking to isn't going to lead you astray. And I know that you, having been doing this for decades now, have a real high integrity. So I just appreciate that you're willing to, listen to someone's issue and say like, okay, yeah, yes, I can help you, or no, you need to go talk to so-and-so. So I appreciate that about you.
Yeah, and I enjoy, as we've talked, I give a free consultation to anyone that wants to talk to me because I'm passionate about their estate planning.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, Mark Klein. You're amazing. And I know I've learned a
Thank you.
lot from you, and I've know business owners who have utilized you in terms of, some of your business transactional services. And I don't know anyone who's used you for bankruptcy, but I'm sure that you've taken care of them as well. And certainly if that's one of our listeners who has some questions about that too, I know they can reach out to you for either of those things, either living trust, bankruptcy, or, maybe just have some business legal issues that you're wondering about, and maybe realizing, oh, my contracts aren't in place, or whatever, different things all kind of pop up for us business owners. So now you all have a resource that you can reach out to. Meanwhile, we'll see you next time. Make sure that you do something kind to yourself, for yourself, and for somebody else. And we will see you on the next episode. Bye.
Good to be with you. Thank you.